Let's cut to the chase. The USA is somehow transported 1000 years into the past and now is faced with a totally different geopolitical situation. Can they survive the year of 1025 AD or collapse and fade away into civil war? Watch this video, find out. Donald Trump wakes up on a random Monday and thinks to himself, man, am I ready to talk with my Pookie Bear? With a suspicious lack of interaction from Bloody Daddy, Trump gets a bit paranoid. Is Vladimir dead? Did Ukraine win? Did my wife find out about? Did someone leak the Epstein file? Trump, wanting to get those thoughts out of his head, opens the phone to doom scroll a bit on TikTok. But suspiciously, the internet is down. You see, when the USA was transported into the past, it didn't take the satellites in space with it. People, especially on the borders, would be slowly realizing that their old neighbors, Canada and Mexico, are no longer there. How would they figure that out? Well, let's think for a moment. You are finally on your way to enjoy your vacation in Mexico. Tropical weather, beaches, and Aztec warriors shooting arrows at your car? Now, the whole of America wouldn't be realizing what happened. Remember, they have no internet and confusion would be at an all-time high. Eventually, the American government would set up a national internet, restoring communications to the rest of the country. And then, pictures flood in. Native Americans from north of the border crossing into the USA to hunt, only to find small villages and towns scattered along where forests used to be. A state of emergency is declared, with US troops being stationed at the borders. Trump stands in the Oval Office, staring at a map of the continent that suddenly looks emptier than usual. The only thing left beyond the borders are forests, mountains, and very confused native tribes. Without imports, stores start running out of everything. Shelves empty in days. Gas prices shoot through the roof. And while everyone is losing their minds, the politicians scramble to find a solution. Republicans and Democrats once again butt heads, each offering varying solutions to the crisis. Trump takes charge on TV, announcing a national emergency.
We're going to make America survive again, better than ever. Nobody has ever survived this good.
Behind the scenes though, even his advisors are panicking, and the economy is unraveling fast. With no trade, the entire import-export industry crashes overnight. Ports shut down, companies that rely on foreign parts from cars to computers close their doors, even Silicon Valley goes dark. The dollar's value tumbles, and banks close to stop people from pulling out their savings. With the modern economy shattered, America has to relearn how to survive alone. The government orders factories to start producing basic goods again: clothing, tools, machines, and food equipment. Trump has finally did it. He brought back manufacturing to the US. But America isn't ready for this. It relied too much on foreign trade. As weeks pass, resources start running low. Trump and his advisors realize that they can't keep this going on for longer. They need to make an unpopular decision for the future of America: expand. To the north, former Canada, rich in timber and iron. It doesn't take long for the USA to completely take over Canada. To the south, vast oil fields are still undiscovered, just ready for extraction. Just like Canada, the Americans attack former Mexico and take it over, although this time they had some resistance. The only problem now is, what do you do with the natives? Remember, this is 1025 AD, way before Columbus's arrival. Imagine millions of Native Americans, especially in what is now Mexico. For sure the Americans wouldn't commit any atrocities to acquire resources in Mexico. Right? Right? They instantly commit atrocities against the natives and start exploiting the land. At least that Gulf can really be named the Gulf of America now. Due to social media, these events are going to cause outrage in the American population. Many Democrats take a step back and demand that the natives would at least be given some reservations. The Republicans mostly disagree and decide that they need the entirety of the land so that the economy doesn't collapse. Then another crisis appears. Since the Native Americans in this universe weren't exposed to old world diseases yet, they would have to deal with every single modern day disease. That is, unless a costly vaccination campaign is enacted to make the Native Americans immune as fast as possible. Again, this would spark discourse in the American government. With Democrats pushing to vaccinate the Native Americans, Republicans opt not to do that as the economy is already strained to its limits and creating millions of vaccines isn't viable at all. While this is going on, ICE would still be an important entity. They would still be tasked with expelling immigrants out of the country, and even though those immigrants have nowhere to return to, they are still booted out of America south of the border. This results in many being attacked by other Native American tribes along the way or simply dying in the wilderness. But some manage to band together, eventually forming small villages. According to official estimates, the Trump administration has deported around 140,000 people since he took office. It is fair to assume that during this crisis period, he would manage to deport many more due to the chaos and confusion caused by the swap and the power that he would gain during a crisis period. There lives around 300,000 deportees since the crisis started, with many managing to band together and form their own country in South America. Now, this country would be small, but it would be able to thrive as the second strongest country in the Americas. They of course would be able to trade and communicate with the US, which would make them a very powerful player in the region. They would happily take even more deportees from the US, as that would increase this country's population. NASA starts launching satellites into space, regaining vision on the world. For the first time in history, Americans can observe medieval Europe. The American administration decides it wouldn't be a good idea to make contact with the rest of the world. Not only would it probably cause complete collapse of the civilization in the old world, but it would probably create a danger in the future of the USA. Think about it. After making contact, technologies would slowly but surely make their way into medieval Europe, the Middle East and China, which were some of the most violent places during this time period. From the US point of view, they have a 1,000-year advantage over all the other countries in the world. Why would they give that up? So America tries to focus inward and fix its own problems. But I don't think it would be enough. The US would be able to stabilize its own economy a little, but the population would take the hit. The tech sector and service sector would shrink, while the blue-collar sector would grow massively. Cities would face the brunt of this new economic change, causing many Democrat strongholds such as New York, Los Angeles and San Francisco to lose a lot of economic power. That would further lead to revolts starting all over the country, spreading from these three cities. Trump's presidency had brought only authoritarianism, expansion, economic hardship, genocide, and thus, the Second American Civil War officially begins. Many of the Democrat elite decides not to get involved in the Civil War, and urge the Democratic voters to stand down for the good of the country. On the other side, new rising Democrats such as Zoran Mamdani joined the Civil War as a way to oppose Donald Trump's ever-increasing influence. The USA is stretched thin, with most of the American army being present in newly annexed Canadian and Mexican territories. That leaves the National Guard to deal with the impending revolt. But even these National Guards begin to switch sides and join the revolution, providing weaponry and ammo to the Democrat coalition. Republican neighboring states send their own National Guard to help Trump's soldiers. The Republican force's biggest advantage would be that the Army and Air Force would be mostly loyal to whoever holds the White House. And in that case, that would be the Republicans. But with the Democrats slowly losing and people all over the country seeing famous cities such as New York and LA being destroyed and ravaged, some people in the military wish to stop damaging these cities further and instead wish to simply surround them and wait for the coalition to surrender. The Trump administration, on the other hand, would want a very quick victory to gain the manpower and the economic power of these cities to rebuild the economy quicker. This internal conflict between the US Army and the Trump administration would boil over and eventually lead to a purge in the US military. Any general that wasn't blindly following orders from the administration would get fired and dishonorably discharged. Then, America fractures. Canada and Mexico are no longer part of the USA. Generals stationed there split off and declared neutrality during the Civil War. Meanwhile in the USA, President Trump is getting ready for a speech to unify the nation. But then, he gets assassinated by a disgruntled veteran attending the speech. The dominoes begin to fall. The Republicans no longer have a unifying figure and America begins to crack. Texas declares independence. The other southern states, united by common Christian values, come together in union and rename themselves as a Southern Theocracy. They believe that this entire crisis is a test of God, to separate the believers from the unbelievers. And they for sure won't be in the unbeliever camp. Much of the Midwest either declares independence as solitary states or remain loyal to the United States of America. With the fracturing of Trump's America, the Democrat coalition begins to lose steam, eventually fracturing as well. New York and other Democrat alliance states in the Northeast unite and form the Socialist States of America, led by Zoran Mamdani. California, Oregon and Washington don't unite, but form a coalition of mutual defense. Some of the Rust Belt states unite, forming the Great Lakes Republic. Due to all this chaos, many European immigrants decide to flee up north into military-controlled Canada for shelter, while others decide to do something extremely risky. Some wish to reclaim what was once their homeland and manage to slip past the confused American Navy and into the European continent. After a few years, the Second American Civil War would start to sizzle out. Millions died and most front lines would be stable by now. A new age has begun. Every new state would try to gain the support of either military administration. Because of the sheer amount of soldiers Canada and Mexico have, they are reliant on former US states to give them food and supplies, or else they would have to go into American lands and get it themselves, if you know what I mean. The situation on the ground might be looking grim, but some states start thriving. The Great Lakes Republic becomes the biggest industrial manufacturer in the region, and allies to the military administration of Canada. They give them supplies, weapons and food, and they receive land, resources and protection. The other states to the west of the Great Lakes become the breadbasket of the US. They send their goods down the Mississippi River, which then get distributed to all the other states on the eastern coast. This gives the southern theocracy immense leverage as they can block corn and grain shipments to the rest of the eastern coast. Besides that, they aren't very powerful. This society is mostly agrarian and rural. The socialist states of America ally themselves with the Republic of the Great Lakes. New York becomes the hub of trade and research as one of the most influential cities on the eastern coast. It is also helped by the fact that Zoran is an unifying figure amongst Democrats in that region. On the other side, the southern theocracy is their biggest rival. They have somewhat of a love-hate relationship. On one hand, they need the food shipments to sustain their population, but on the other hand, they hate each other ideologically. California and Texas are the biggest rivals on the other side of the country. Texas is able to leverage support from the Mexican military administration and extract oil and natural gases from Mexico. California has a big advantage in technology, but not enough food to feed itself. This is where its allies, Oregon and Washington, step in and provide food and fertile land. That food still wouldn't be enough, but it would alleviate a lot of California's food problem. This would push exploration into the Pacific, with more and more Californian fishing ships venturing out into the ocean and bringing back food. I believe that the West Coast would become the most technologically advanced part of the US, and probably one of the most self-sustainable parts too. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, join my Discord, and check out my other videos as well. Cheers!